Imagine getting a pay raise every single year for the next 30 years. No boss, no interview, no promotion, just a deposit that lands in your account a little bigger than the one before it. That is what dividend growth investing is supposed to feel like, and a small group of exchange-traded funds is built to deliver exactly that. Four of them, when you stack them together, have historically raised their distributions almost every year for over a decade. Not because each one is perfect, but because their raise cycles do not all line up on the same calendar. Years ago, I made the mistake of betting on just one dividend ETF. The year it paused a raise was the year I learned what diversification of payout clocks really means. Today, I want to walk you through the 4 dividend ETFs that, in my view, form the cleanest dividend growth portfolio you can build with a brokerage account. Quick disclaimer: I am not a financial advisor and this isn't financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. I will give you the role each one plays, the real numbers from the most recent filings, and at about the 3/4 mark of this video, I will show you why the 4th pick is the one almost nobody talks about, even though its dividend growth rate has been the highest of the entire group. I will call this the Forever Raise Stack. If you stay until the end, you will see exactly how the 4 payout clocks fit together, and how a hypothetical investor could potentially turn a starting income of less than $2,000 a year into a payment stream that grows on autopilot for decades. Let me start with the foundation. The first pick is VIG, the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF. VIG is built around companies that have raised their dividend for at least 10 straight years. It trades around $233 a share, with a yield right at 1.5% and an expense ratio of just 4 basis points. That is one of the lowest fees in the entire dividend universe. Assets under management are about $124 billion, which means liquidity is never an issue. The largest holdings inside VIG read like a list of American megacaps that simply do not stop paying. Broadcom, Apple, Microsoft, JP Morgan Chase, Eli Lilly, ExxonMobil, Walmart, Johnson & Johnson, Visa, and Costco. The sector skew leans technology at about 26%, financials at roughly 20%, healthcare at about 16.5%, and consumer defensives at about 10%. That mix matters because it tells you VIG is not a yield play, it is a quality play. The yield is small on day one, but the companies inside it are built to keep raising for decades. Here is the trade-off most people miss. VIG is the lowest yielding ETF in this stack. If yield today is your priority, you will be disappointed in month 1. But VIG's job is not to feed you in month 1. Its job is to compound the raises so that by year 10, the income off the VIG slice could be meaningfully larger than where it started, and the fee is so low that almost nothing leaks out along the way. That is the long game in one sentence. Now, to the foundation most of you came here for. The second pick is SCHD, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. SCHD trades around $32.50 a share, with a yield of about 3.33% and an expense ratio of 6 basis points. Assets under management are roughly $93 billion, and the fund holds about 100 high-quality dividend payers. SCHD has a documented track record of raising its distribution for over a decade, with a 5-year dividend growth rate near 13% and a 10-year growth rate around 11%. Those are strong numbers for an ETF that yields more than 3% at the same time. The top holdings tell you a different story than VIG. Texas Instruments, Qualcomm, United Health, Chevron, Coca-Cola, ConocoPhillips, Merck, Verizon, PepsiCo, and Procter & Gamble. Notice what is missing. No Apple, no Microsoft, no Nvidia. SCHD does not chase the same mega-cap growth names as VIG. It hunts cash flow, it pays you today, and it raises that payment over time. SCHD is the cash flow engine of the Forever Raise Stack. If you only owned one of these 4, this would be the one most retirees would probably pick. Here is the part I want you to remember. SCHD's raise calendar does not match VIG's. They reset distributions on different schedules, with different sector concentrations, with different yield bands. That mismatch is exactly what gives the full stack its quiet superpower. We will come back to that. The third pick is DGRO, the iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF. DGRO trades around $71.50 a share with a yield in the 2 to 2.25% range and an expense ratio of 8 basis points. Assets under management are about $38 billion, and the fund holds roughly 400 names, which makes it the most diversified of the four. The fund launched in June of 2014, so DGRO has been raising through more than one full market cycle. DGRO sits in the middle of the stack on every measure. The yield is higher than VIG but lower than SCHD. The fee is higher than VIG and SCHD but still tiny. The sector mix is broader than either of them. Top holdings include ExxonMobil, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, Apple, AbbVie, Microsoft, Philip Morris, Procter & Gamble, Home Depot, and Merck. You see the overlap with VIG on the tech and financial side, and the overlap with SCHD on the healthcare and energy side. That is by design. DGRO is the bridge ETF that smooths the spaces between VIG's quality tilt and SCHD's income tilt. This is the part most viewers do not realize. DGRO and SCHD only overlap on about 18% of their holdings. That means, even though both are called dividend growth funds, you are getting two genuinely different baskets of stocks. That low overlap is the single biggest argument for owning both of them inside the same portfolio, rather than picking one and skipping the other. And now we get to the pick almost nobody talks about, even though by one important measure it might be the strongest of the four. The fourth pick is DGRW, the Wisdom Tree U.S. Quality Dividend Growth Fund. DGRW launched in May of 2013, so it has more than a decade of public history. Assets under management are about $16.8 billion, smaller than the other three, but still institutional grade. The expense ratio is 28 basis points, which is the highest fee of the four and the one fact you have to make peace with up front. Holdings count is 301 names. Here is why DGRW earns its spot despite the higher fee. Its methodology screens for quality and growth rather than pure dividend longevity. The top holdings are aggressively tech-tilted. NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, ExxonMobil, Home Depot, Meta, Chevron, Coca-Cola, United Health, and Alphabet. That is a noticeably different return engine than SCHD. DGRW's historical dividend growth rate sits in the low to mid-teens, which is the highest of the four ETFs on this list. Higher dividend growth means the income line off your DGRW slice steepens faster than off VIG, SCHD, or DGRO in isolation. So why does DGRW belong with the other three instead of replacing one of them? Because DGRW overlaps with DGRO on about 48% of its holdings, but the top weight differences are large enough that they behave like cousins, not twins. DGRO gives you broader diversification. DGRW gives you a steeper income ramp. SCHD gives you yield today. VIG gives you the lowest fee anchor. Each one is doing a different job. Together, they form the Forever Raise stack. Now the math. Picture a hypothetical investor we will call Harry. Harry puts $100,000 into the stack, split evenly across the four funds. $25,000 goes into VIG, $25,000 into SCHD, $25,000 into DGRO, and $25,000 into DGRW. With current yields, the starting annual income lands somewhere in the high $1,000 to low $2,000 range. Not life-changing, not yet. But here is the key. The portfolio is left alone. No new contributions, just dividends being reinvested while each fund's raise cycle does the work. If the historical dividend growth rates hold even at half their published pace, the annual income could potentially land near $4,000 to $5,000 by year 10 and somewhere near $8,000 to $10,000 by year 20. That is not because any single ETF doubled. It is because every single one of them raised the payment a little, almost every year, and those raises stacked on top of each other. The reason the income line almost never goes flat is exactly what I told you earlier. The four ETFs do not share the same raise calendar. VIG tends to raise in late summer. SCHD raises in the spring. DGRO raises in the fall window. DGRW resets on its own wisdom tree methodology cadence. Because the timing is staggered, even if one fund pauses or trims a raise during a bad year, the other three usually carry the aggregate higher. That is the smoothing effect. It is not magic. It is calendar diversification meeting, dividend growth screening, and it is the reason the Forever Raise stack earns its name. A quick word on what this stack is not. It is not an income maximizer. If you want the highest possible yield today, you would replace VIG with something heavier, like SPYI or DIVO, and you would accept slower growth in exchange. The Forever Raise stack is built for the investor who has time and wants the payment line to keep climbing every year for the next 20 or 30 years. SCHD is the cash flow anchor. VIG is the quality and fee anchor. DGRO is the bridge that smooths the middle. DGRW is the growth ramp. One last consideration before we wrap. The 48% overlap between DGRO and DGRW is real, and some investors will look at it and decide to drop one of the two. That is a defensible choice. If you simplify down to three funds, VIG plus S, CHD plus DGRO is the cleanest trio you can run. Adding DGRW is a deliberate decision to lean into quality growth and accept a higher blended fee in exchange for a steeper income ramp. There is no wrong answer here. There is only the answer that matches the income shape you are trying to build. So which one do you actually pick? If you only own one, SCHD does the most for the average dividend investor. If you can hold two, add VIG so you get the lowest fee anchor and mega cap quality. If you can hold three, add DGRO for the diversification and the bridge effect. And if you want the full Forever Raise stack with the steepest growth ramp, that is when DGRW earns its slot. Each upgrade adds a different shape to the income curve, and none of them require you to abandon the prior pick.